All right, we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode of Finance Junkies. Are you guys excited for the guest we have on tonight?
Who is
Absolutely.
this guy? Who is this guy?
Absolutely, 100%.
Who is this guy? You don't know this guy? You
Nothing
don't know the
pull
guy
up.
that's casually talking with the world's richest man every day, like he's his fucking buddy from like
you got
childhood?
You got Earl the Frunk puppy?
Oh man,
Chris,
Chris,
you
are
got the
excited for our
Dogecoin
guest
millionaire on.
today? That's true. Chris, you excited?
Yeah.
Chris is like, I never get excited.
Chris just woke up. Chris just rolled out of
Chris
bed.
just woke up. He's getting ready for work.
Pretty much.
All right, so we've got Farzad in the building. He'll be joining very shortly. Thank you, 115 people, for being here. Big, awesome thank you to Farzad for joining the pod. It's going to be super fun. Obviously, what's going on with Tesla right now is incredibly exciting because GM and Ford have basically said, look, we give up. We can't beat you guys. So now we're going to use your EV charging stations. And as a result of that, it's kind of playing out to the prophecy that a lot of the Tesla bulls have been saying, which is that Tesla is going to dominate everything. And auto legacy manufacturers are going to have to ultimately bow down to the king, which is Tesla. Kathy Wood recently sold 370,000 shares of Tesla today to buy Meta. So I know Carlos is super happy that she did that. He didn't even know that. So this is his raw reaction.
I didn't even know that.
You didn't know that.
Dude, she's trading. That's not.
No, I think she's rebalancing. I think that's all she's doing. But she did.
Yeah, exactly. If it runs up, I mean, dude, it ran up. This is a record. It ran up 12 days in a row. So we're gonna get a pullback. Eventually.
Can we get to the meat?
Yes, the more exciting thing is that she actually bought Meta, not that she sold Tesla. All right, so here we go. The man, the myth, the legend. He is here. Farzad.
Well, you're giving me such a big hype introduction. Like this is so over the top, bro.
I know it's like we weren't talking 2 minutes before we went live.
Yeah.
Hey,
Just some
oh my
random.
God, Farzad! Oh my God, can you sign?
Oh
it?
no, it's
Amit thinks he's Johnny Carson. I think we should just start with you as opposed to like.
I think we
bring
should have
you
gone
in.
live with what we were talking about before.
Absolutely. We were talking Palantir.
Yeah.
Maybe we revisit
We were talking
No, we
Palantir.
don't have to
Palantir.
talk about Palantir. We don't have to do that. We don't have to do
No, at the end, towards the end. You know,
we can do it at the end. Okay,
Just
so
a good
Farzad,
way
I'm
to-
going to start this off with one question. I want to get your raw answer to it, and then we'll get into all things Tesla.
Okay.
For some reason, somehow, you have manifested, whatever you want to call it, this buddy-buddy relationship you have with Mr. Elon Musk. And don't tell me it's not a buddy-buddy relationship, because he has called you by your name on Twitter Spaces. You're laughing and you're being humble about it.
What
but
else
that's
is he
okay.
supposed to call me? Like
Well,
Roger?
I'm just saying,
Like,
the fact that he knows your name. Farzad, do you have a question? And Farzad's like, oh, sure, I have a fucking question. I'm going to ask this question. Like, he's responding to your tweets. You're responding to his tweets. You guys are sending emojis back at each other. So my first question, and then I'll let Carlos and Vitaly take over, is what does it feel like to actually have a pseudo relationship with the richest man on the planet and legitimately be talking to him? Like, how did this whole happen? And you are living every Tesla YouTuber's dream by doing this. So how does this feel?
well, I mean, to me, it's definitely strange that like somebody of his, let's say, stature is following me on Twitter. But I really do think it's more about he's going out of his way to support creators that he's familiar with, especially in the Tesla space. Like he follows a lot of Tesla creators. So within that context, I just, I appreciate the support. It's definitely, I mean, I'm not going to say it's not cool when I post something, not even Tesla related, and then Elon Musk shows up in my replies and says something to it. I think that's pretty cool. But the side effect is that, I get a trillion notifications and then my DMs turn into a shithole. And then I have to go, private DMs. And a lot of people start getting real aggressive about just me existing on the internet. So it has its pros and cons, but it's flattering. I mean, in the end, it's flattering. It's really cool. But I think ultimately even though he has a lot of really nice things said about him and really bad things about him, I still view him as a human being. And so if that's, it's just a dude that just shows up in Twitter who happens to have a large following and is accomplished. I think, it's cool. I don't know how else to think about it.
Just a dude.
Hopefully that keeps me grounded.
when you worked at Tesla, did you have face-to-face communication? Like how close was your working connection with him?
So no face-to-face, but what was unique is that I did send him emails a handful of times while I was there about stuff that I was working on or some advice that I had about certain things I was seeing. Just, because they have a policy that says reach out to anybody, even Elon, if you think it's something that he could do, to change something. And every time he would reply, and that was really the relationship was just over email.
You were sending them like hot dog memes and
yeah, of course, yeah, just like gifs and
yeah, gifs.
I don't know if you can talk inside of the company now because it's later. You don't work there anymore.
Sure.
But what happens now? Like, does Elon still get email from employees, or now it's just too big and it's more of a structure? Even though if it's not a corporate structure per se, the same way, but is it just too big for Elon to be involved in all those activities he was involved when you were there?
I think that if there's one strength he has from what I saw is that he can still engage with the everyday worker in some way, because the way that at least it's been explained to me and how I experienced sort of his presence at the company was that when something in a place that needed attention, he was there, and he was there trying to solve the problem. And those problems are not solved through management or, through in a typical corporate environment, through all the middle people. You have to go to the ground and see what the hell is going on. And I think that's why Tesla and SpaceX and his ventures are so successful, is because it's that immigrant mentality. I don't know how to describe it. Like, you just get in there and you make shit happen. And so I think what may happen over time is that, instead of it being, him being, 40 hours at Tesla, it might be 30 hours at Tesla or something. But the proportion of time he spends at the company, I think, will still be like, say, 60% of his time he wants to be at work on the floor. Then he'll still continue to do that. But the net number of hours might go down. But it's still the same level of engagement as that leadership team gets built up. Does that make sense? Yeah.
I have you pick. I have a serious question and I have a sort of off-color question.
I'll let you decide.
Okay.
But give me both.
Okay. Well, you'll eventually get both. The off-color question. This is just because like I said, I told you I'm a subscriber on your Twitter. If anyone is not subscribed to Farzad, you guys should totally subscribe to him on Twitter Spaces. They're awesome. It's great. Put it up. Bring up the link. I'm
going to do that. And Farzad, thank you for being here, because we
just paid for just paid for 25 people. But no, can you explain to everybody why heavy metal is the greatest genre of music for people that still do not understand?
Yeah. So I was going to comment about your drum set in the background there. So that's freaking awesome, dude. That's sick. It's for me. It's like the perfect combination of technicality, emotion, hooky, like catchy, and just rawness. It has everything. It has like the beautiful leads and harmonies. It has the chunky, super primal beat stuff. It just, for me, it's the whole package. And you can go, like Opeth is one of my favorite bands. I don't know if you guys have heard of Opeth, but Opeth goes all over the place, and it's more like a progressive death metal kind of vibe. But you don't get that kind of meld in any other genre, I feel like, where you go into the darkest of the dark, and then with like this euphoric, you come out of the darkness. It's weird to explain, but it's very like, it just speaks to me very artistically. And during when I was growing up, it just helped me get a lot of my angst out, and it still does to this day. So
we were there, by the way. We were in a metal band, me and Carlos, back in the day. So just FYI.
Oh, sick.
That's by the way, their band was called Occasional Handjob.
It was more like
there you go. I wasn't going to say it.
There were some elements of metal. I was trying to push it more and more in that direction, of course.
Okay, that's
in our show we played Battery. That was our first show.
Yeah, we opened with Battery for Metallica, and then we opened with Creeping Death.
That's sick. There's a video of me and my brother. So my brother and I had a cover band back in the day. There's a video of me on YouTube and him covering Battery. Actually, it's actually on my YouTube channel, but it's unlisted. But I'll post it. I'll post a link for you guys in the comments because you guys want to watch.
So if anyone wants to listen to some old Metallica and just have your ears blown out, go ahead. Put on that. Is it Kill 'Em All? Is that the album?
No. Kill 'Em All was
Master Puppets.
No, you got to do Master Puppets. Yeah. But I actually would say don't listen to the studio album. Listen to the version that they did in Mexico City. That was part of the Live Shit Binge and Purge. Dual VHS. The quality is amazing.
That one's sick.
Like classical music, which
shrieking band.
There is excellent. I actually am a classically trained musician. I played Carnegie Hall at 14 years old. Like, that's a legit, honest fact. And so
that's awesome.
Well, basically, we're on YouTube because we're failed musicians. I just want to point that out.
When you fail, you need Tesla to bail you out. Yes. Who said that? Can Man. Testament. Yes. Testament.
Testament's sick too.
I want to ask you a serious question. Here's a serious question.
Okay.
So you worked at Tesla. Let me just frame this right. So you worked at Tesla. You have a unique insight into the company because you worked there. And so there are things that you see when you work inside of a company that no matter who, Gary Black, Ross Gerber, none of these guys can see. Can you explain to me what some of the things that you saw early on that made you really bullish, that you were just like, oh shit, this is something that I don't see at other places? Either compare it to places that you've worked, but just things that you saw that are unique to you, that give you a perspective that's different than any of the other guys on YouTube.
That's a great question. So, and I've had some time to think about it because it's kind of shifted over time. But I think the thing that really stood out to me at the very beginning was the how few number of people were present in any given team and how much they got done. It was shocking to me. So I'll give you an example. In the team that I was on, we basically oversaw.
And what did you do?
Supply chain. So I was on a supply chain team, and basically my role was to help grow the service parts distribution network in the United States and parts of Europe at the time when I first started. It was just growing out the distribution network, ensuring that the right processes are in place, building out processes, overseeing all the processes, inbound, outbound, inventory control, shipping, packaging, everything. And a lot of my role was also tied to the business intelligence aspect of it, where I create a lot of dashboards, KPIs, data sets. I mine for data to help find gaps and opportunities. And then I would take that data, get a team together. We'd go into the floor. We hop on a forklift if need be. And then we start testing stuff out to see how we can basically maximize the flow of product from point A to point B. So that was basically what I helped do. And I came from a company before that was called Phillips Pet Food and Supplies, which was an amazing company. It still is. And so many mentors taught me so many things at that company. But the biggest thing that I realized is that if on the team that I was on, the amount of stuff that three of us got done, really, like three of us were basically creating a lot of things for the distribution network at the time. Phillips and any other distribution company or 3PL, third-party logistics company, would probably use like 20, right? So there was like a 10x factor. You had all these middle management layers, right? It's just a bunch of people doing nothing. And Tesla was extremely good at just allowing individuals to have maximum ownership. They give you the keys to the company, and they say, go figure it out. If you fail, it's fine. Fix it in 24 hours. Keep moving. So failure was an option. And that's one big thing from a cultural perspective that I really learned from Tesla, is like they give their leadership team such huge leeway, and really anybody such huge leeway, because they trust in their hiring process that they're getting the best of the best, and then they get empowered. And so when I saw that firsthand, I'm like, you're telling me that you can take any of these brilliant people, basically you can even share them between teams and they'll just figure it out. So in my head, I'm like, okay, so Tesla's not really a car company. Tesla is a magnet for top tier people to solve problems related to manufacturing. And once that clicked in my brain, I'm like, okay, these guys can do anything. And that's why they do things like batteries. That's why they do things like solar. That's why they do cars. That's why they do FSD. That's why they do the bot. That's why they do the charging stuff with Ford and GM. That's why they have all these different things, Dojo, right? Like they just have all these vertically integrated processes and independent companies within the company that is proof that they just have a bunch of killers in there and they're empowered. And seeing that firsthand to me was like the biggest signal that said, yeah, this thing's going to be fine. Like as long as they don't go bankrupt during Model 3 ramp and they start generating some cash flow, they're just a bunch of killers in there that are going to be, they're going to have more cash at their disposal to do even bigger things in the future. And so that to me is the Tesla thesis.
I have a question as a follow-up, since you're talking about in the factory. Just bring me back. Like when you were there, this was what, 10 years ago?
No, that was 2021 was my last year there.
Oh, so okay, not that far ago. But when did you start? What year did you start?
17.
All right, so 2017, still early in the Model 3, I think, in terms of ramping. So I'm curious, did Tesla hire known like car engineers and manufacturing people, or are these all just engineers and they figured out how to make a car?
So from my experience, I didn't interface with the engineering teams on the production side nearly as much as like the people there. But the engineering people I did interface, it was like half and half. Half where I would say industry engineers that came from, say, Toyota or Honda or Ford, that were probably the killers of those groups. And then the other half are just people that are just straight up killers who figure stuff out. And I think that mold, that merge of those two things is what enables them to kind of navigate in the way they do, because they don't get stuck. They never, from my experience, they never got stuck in a way of doing things. But there are certain things that experience can bring forward that are way more valuable than banging your head against the wall trying to figure something out, where somebody from 4 can be like, yeah, just do this. This is like, what the hell are you doing, right? But but what happens is those people that say may have come from, say, Ford, GM, or Honda, what I notice is that over time, sort of the Tesla way of just getting shit done, and you just throw everything out the window, first principles, no question is too ridiculous kind of approach starts to seep in for those that really want to be there to overperform and really make a name for themselves and really make the company as good as possible. And then everybody else kind of just, they stagnate, and then before you know it, they're gone. And so Tesla does a really good job of sort of ensuring that the company, from my experience, it's not perfect. You'll have laggards in places, you'll have gaps in places. No company is perfect, but at a much higher rate than what I saw in the past. They just know where the gaps are, and they know how to bring them out, how to pull them out, and ensure that the team runs as lean as possible. Yeah.
Seems very similar to GE's business model when GE was under Jack Welch, where they were constantly going after different companies and innovating on itself, but at the same time making sure that they were never overburdened with underperformers, right? Because that's the bane of every single company. Once you get to a certain size, you can't really control you can't really control the HR aspect as well, and then you just have a lot of dead weight come on. So, if a good example of is Meta, who wanted to get as large as possible, but instead of applying first principles, they ended up just saying, okay, we need bodies to fill roles. And then you had layers on layers of middle management. That's what I loved about GE back in the day. GE had this policy of cutting the every year they would cut the bottom 10% of the workforce, saying if you weren't performing, you would get chopped off. So everyone always wanted to not be in the bottom 10%, which is it sucks for the workers, but at the end of the day, if you're trying to run a business, that's the most effective way you want to run it.
For sure. Yeah, without a doubt.
I don't know. That sounds kind of cutthroat, honestly. And eventually you get to the top 90%, but you're cutting the best of the best anyway. So I don't think Tesla was doing that. Is that correct, Farzad? They weren't just cutting people left and right. If you just weren't performing, then you would get cut.
If you weren't performing, I mean, from the teams that I was a part of, I mean, just naturally the bottom 10 to 15% just kind of filter themselves out.
They leave.
Just
I figured they leave.
Yeah, they leave. You're basically describing college. By the third year.
Sure.
If Elon is there expecting me to do 60 hours, I'd be like, all right, I'm not the guy. Right? Yeah,
they either leave or they're just low performers, and from my experience, they had a pretty good process of checking in with the folks as often, really often, and then if you don't score well, you're out. I mean, it's like take any company's HR process of identifying high performers and low performers and think about how it should be done, and that's how they do it. I just think most companies don't actually do that because they're not willing to look at the staff that they have and look at them like honestly and actually start firing people, because firing people is extremely uncomfortable and most people hate discomfort. And if there's one thing Tesla does extremely well is that they thrive in discomfort, because you can't run a company like that unless you're uncomfortable all the time.
I'm trying to maximize the question, because I could ask you about the history of this forever, but thinking for like shareholder value and what you think in the future. Okay. You know how Ross made he made a pitch to get on the board of directors, and it was eventually shot down. Okay. So say you wake up tomorrow and you're on the board of directors. Okay. What would you advise Elon to do from where so that face of yours, like,
no thanks.
Okay. So, but if you're on the board of directors and you have one initiative, right? What one initiative would you want pushed? And then my other question would be, what thing that say Elon is doing that if you had voting control, you would override? Could be anything. Advertising. It could have to do with margins. It could be product models. Just really curious. Again, coming from an insider, somebody that knows the company really well.
I mean, if there's one thing, I mean, the board question for me is it's tough for me to answer, because the reason why I'm, all my stock is in Tesla is because I feel like the board's direction for Elon and how Elon runs the company is top tier. So it's like tough for me to say, here's something you should be doing better. I mean, I really think the AI opportunity for the company in the next decade is going to be the most important part of the business by far, especially as they go down the cost structure for EVs. You know, like in the next 10 to 20 years, you're going to have $20,000 EVs, $15,000 EVs.
So can
And
you
those
break that down and break that down? What do you mean the AI opportunity?
yeah. So full self-driving. So the full self-driving piece and the bot piece and things like that. So if there's one thing I want the board and Elon to be super focused on is ensuring that full self-driving and the Tesla bot don't only come to fruition, but they're just insanely good successes, right? Like they're just a giant focus of the company. But this is my point. I think it already is, because if Elon's out there talking about it on stage at the shareholder meeting, then in my head, the company is already set up for the next 10 to 20 years. And again, that's why I'm invested in it. So
Right.
that's why it's a hard, I almost have to sit down for like 30 minutes to an hour to really think through it. Because if I think about the board should be focused on 10 to 20 years out. And if Elon and the team are already focused on full self-driving and the bot, then I'm good. You're good. Like that's all you got to worry about, right? In my head. As far as like if there's something I want Elon specifically to focus on, the one thing I experienced, and I think it was more due to the time, like where the company was in sort of its growth stage, was manufacturing got way more attention than the rest of the business. So, you know, like service parts, distribution, supply chain, all the teams were scrappy, but I felt like ours was super scrappy because all the resources were focused on manufacturing to get the Model 3 ramp going. And so I know that was starting to transition. Like we started getting more attention, we started getting a little bit more eyes on us and more help, you know, just resources to make stuff happen quicker.
Yeah.
So if there's one thing I would tell, you know, is like just make sure that continues and have it a parity, especially as you're going down this path of opening up more and more your business to other people, like the supercharger network. Tesla is not just a manufacturing company; it's a multi-headed beast, and you know, try to replicate your manufacturing success in every area, which is going to be extremely difficult to do. But if there's one thing that should be done is that. So, you know, if that's one weakness that Tesla has is that their manufacturing.
The message, you're saying it's a messaging thing. There's a lot of focus on the manufacturing aspect and not as much a focus on, say, the AI or the software as a service, the bot.
It's not so much messaging. I just think the resource availability. Like, just make sure that you are giving everyone else as much attention as you're giving manufacturing and let's say the full self-driving development team. Because I get there's got to be a priority list of some sorts, but I think that like say the lower tier folks that are not the sexy jobs, you know, like the manufacturing and the development, like the grueling supply chain work that goes into it, just ensure that the attention's there. And I'm not saying he's not giving it attention, but just know that attention can quickly go away because those jobs are not sexy. And when the jobs are not sexy, people tend to not like to work them, and it could become tough. Yeah. Sure.
Right. So I don't know, Chris or Amit want to ask a question, but I have something just maybe you haven't covered before. So as Tesla scales and more cars come out, at least I noticed that every time I go to these service centers, they are packed. They're getting more efficient, and I've had experience with that.
Sure.
They are getting more efficient, but they're packed. So
Sure.
do you agree or disagree? Why are they not opening this up to other third-party service providers so they can actually start fixing these cars so we can really explode this whole thing? Because part of dealing with a car is fixing it, no matter if it's a Tesla or not. What do you think about that?
That's a great question. So I view it, knowing how Tesla operates, I view their service network to be a forcing function for them to make the most reliable car possible. And so put it this way. So Tesla controls their entire service distribution or service locations, right? Body shop, they outsource. They do have third-party body shop. So if you get, into an accident, then I think like 99% of the locations you go to are third party. So Joe's Body Shop or Robert's Body Shop, right? They are Tesla certified, but Tesla doesn't operate them. So I think the service aspect, in my opinion, I think Tesla should keep in-house because they will have all the data around where the cars are failing, and then they can take that data, clean it up in manufacturing so that part never fails again. And that's what I saw when I was working there. I would see these parts having an issue, and then they stop having an issue. I would see that, that harness has 7 revisions, and then all of a sudden a revision came in and it was barely ordered. Same thing with like the window regulator, or a part of the seat, or part of, or, something with the infotainment, or something with the rear seat, or a piece of trim, or whatever. That is incredibly valuable data. And if they keep the service internal, then they can leverage that data to literally create the best product ever. They're just going to want to do that. Go ahead.
To interject, because they are getting all that data anyway. They've mentioned down the supply chain that 2nd tier, 3rd tier, 4th tier suppliers, they are controlling that whole supply chain. They know everything. So why can't they do that with third-party service providers? They can access their computers and say what part they're ordering.
I think I know. It's probably quality, right? You still want to maintain this brand quality, and you want to have certified people that know what they're doing do it. Like, you don't want
So
Joe
it's the Apple
Schmo.
model.
I would think so, and especially when you're trying
Apple does have third party. Apple has courses you can take to become certified.
Yeah,
to repair those
but
machines.
that's a cell phone versus a larger product. I think keeping a lot of those services in house, and also keeping dollars in house, is how you grow your business. Outsourcing, the more you outsource, it's like a slope, right? Where you outsource a little bit, and then you outsource a little bit, and then the business model becomes you outsource so much. I've seen Tesla is one of the things that it prides itself is bringing as many things as possible in-house. Whether it's battery production, whether it's now lithium refining, right? You want to keep everything in-house, so that this way you can best build the best product possible for the end user, and not dampen the quality because of a third-party issue, right? And so third-party mechanics might be something that
it sounds great. It sounds great in theory, but the problem is, once again, I have to drive an hour to the service center for them to adjust the door.
So you're missing a piece. You're missing a piece of this, is that Tesla's goal is that the car just drives itself to the service center, right? So that's where having control in house. Gotcha. I mean, it sounds insane. It sounds completely insane.
He got you. That's a good one. Right? I mean, the car's like, I'll be right back.
You got me.
Yeah. So it sounds completely insane, but that's that Tesla. So the one way how Tesla operates is that they don't build for now. They build for for the end vision of what they're trying to do. And so keeping service internal in the long term, once the self-driving suite is complete and the car you no longer have to take the car to the shop. The car just, leaves your driveway at 2 a.m. and it shows back up at 6 a.m. because they have an automated process to change something out for the car. You don't even know the car got fixed. That is the end goal. And so from a first principles perspective, you ask yourself, what is the limiting factor? That, like, how could that not happen if the car can drive itself, and you either have a night crew that works at service, or you have you design the car because you know what breaks in the car in a way that machines can actually repair that automatically, or say 80% of it can be automated. Then all of a sudden you remove the service thing completely. And if you control it, then you keep 100% of any profits potentially that are related to that, or you control 100% of the experience. Because once you start outsourcing it, there's already complexity internally by having multiple hundreds of locations. Once you say, okay, you are also able to do it, but you're not really Tesla, then the experience could suffer dramatically. You could have 50 cars driving themselves to the location, and the freaking guy closes his gate and he forgets to open it back up or something. Anything could happen, and then it completely sullies the experience.
That's something that I was really impressed with. I don't know if you have any products by the company Dyson. Dyson is one of the companies I would
I love Dyson
to IPO, fucking IPO already. But one of the things that they have, like, I have the vacuum cleaner. I still have this one from like 2011. When it breaks, anything goes wrong, you put the phone up to there's like a little speaker on the device itself, and it plays a bunch of tones over the phone that tells the person on the other end exactly what's wrong with it. And then they can fix it, or they can tell you, this is what we got to do. We got to RMA it and send it back. And so I could see that. I could see what you're saying on a much grander level with Tesla. But my question goes back to what you were saying about AI and the future. I feel like what Elon does a lot of times is he tells you exactly what he's planning to do, but it's so early and it's so nonchalant that people don't take it seriously until it happens. And then it seems so obvious. Okay. So can you just explain to me what you see is like a future integration for this X app, Twitter, and Tesla? He said, okay, in a quote, "I promise that Twitter will bring great value to Tesla shareholders." Those seem really disconnected right now. But with I'm curious what your perspective would be, or what you think that long-term goal is that we're not seeing right now.
And real quick,
I mean,
Farzad, to chime in, just I want you to think about this as well, and if you could speak to this, is there a world in which Tesla invests a little bit in Twitter so that Elon can get out of this whole bankruptcy advertising stuff, so he can take some money from Tesla? But it's not like it's like a quid pro quo. It's like a legitimately Tesla's putting $1 billion into Twitter because, for example, maybe Twitter's giving them their data.
You mean like buying a stake?
Yeah, like I've always thought like Elon's having a big issue right now with Tesla, the advertising revenue, et cetera. What if Tesla puts $1 billion into Twitter? That's nothing to Tesla. And then Twitter gives them their API to train all their data. And like, that's the exchange. And every shareholder, I'm assuming, would be like, yeah, that makes sense. That's not like Elon cheating Tesla's money.
I don't see. So with that example, I don't necessarily see how Tesla would benefit from that relationship. But so let me walk through how I think about that statement. And like the way you described it nails it, because I think, yeah, like he tells you what he's going to do, but it happens 10 years later. I mean, you nailed that. So how I see Twitter /X, which I think the more I think about X and Twitter, I think Twitter is a subset of X.
Right.
I think X as like is a much bigger company, and Twitter's just 1/5 or 1/10 of X. That's how I think about that partnership. But what's interesting about that, say, conglomerate or whatever you want to call it, is that long term, if Elon's vision becomes true, is that it's going to be a financial services company that could potentially offer you your extremely low rate, very 84-month loan for your Tesla potentially, and the media division of X could just run all the entertainment in your Tesla as well. So like that's like two ways where I could see those two things playing hand in hand. The third way, I was thinking about this loosely, but I feel like this is probably better suited to be in the Tesla app. But once Teslas can drive themselves, maybe you could hail a Tesla robotaxi from Twitter potentially, so that there could be some benefit there. So people don't have to download the Tesla app; they just hail their ride straight from Twitter.
Yeah.
There's an opportunity. And then when they jump in the car, if they're watching a video on their Twitter feed or whatever, you jump in the car and then automatically goes to the main screen in the robotaxi, and you can just watch it in the car while the car drives you around. And you pay for it using the financial service, your wallet on Twitter, right? So there could be some stuff going on there, but that's I think surface level. There's probably going to be more interplay between those two companies that we're not thinking about yet. Like for example, the GM and Ford partnership with Tesla on the charging network. Why can't Twitter be the thing you use to pay for supercharging as a Ford owner? You show up, there's a thing like, pay for my supercharger or whatever. I don't know. Like it could just be the Tesla app there too. So that's how I think about those two things working together. And of course, the most obvious one is advertising. I think Twitter, with Elon's goal of it being the largest media company in the world at some point, then theoretically you'll have the most eyes. Like you'll have the largest percentage of eyes fixated on one place, and that becomes a perfect place to advertise a product, and in this case, a Tesla. So I think when he says that comment, it's probably related mostly to that if Twitter becomes the largest, say, media company in the world, or the largest magnet of eyes in the world, or ears in the world, then you could tell those people about Tesla, and you would get the largest impact from doing that versus any other platform. That's how I think. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts, but that's how I think about it. Yeah.
I think this is wishful. This is all wishful thinking. Twitter needs to do this, and Tesla needs to do that with Twitter. I think a lot of it is maybe one day that there'll be some level of integration, but it's not necessary for Twitter to succeed, nor is it necessary for Tesla to succeed. Both can succeed independently on their own merits, and each one can, like, I think what it is everyone wants to branch the success of another company based on the success of one, saying, oh, Boring Company is going to be really good because Tesla Starships. Like, no, they're unrelated. Run the businesses like they're supposed to be run at individual levels, hire the best people, let them do their thing. Elon did not buy Twitter for the benefit of Tesla shareholders, even though one of the benefits that Tesla is going to get is a lot of free advertising that's going to come along with it, right? I don't think it was in Elon's head at the time, like, hey, if I buy Twitter, that means that Tesla's going to get more exposure, even though that's probably the side thing that happened. So I think both companies should be run independently. Both have to have a segregated operating and business model that's unrelated to each other. And yeah, there could be some cross collaboration in terms of HR, but in terms of like integration, of Twitter into Tesla just seems like, I don't know. It doesn't seem like a valid thing. Even when it comes to X, like that's like 10 years out. The payment systems right now that are out there are so much more efficient, like with Visa, MasterCard, Amex, and everything else already integrated into the Tesla ecosystem. The question is, why would you want to have another party introduce another technology into it, and for what purpose? Like, you're saving a couple of cents here and there on transaction costs. I don't know. I just I don't see the Twitter and Tesla like thing happening, at least not in the short term. Maybe another 10 years out, 20 years out, something like that could happen.
I have another choice for you. Another off-color question or a serious question? Farzad.
I think let's do serious, because I have a serious question too.
Serious
Okay.
question. Okay. Serious question. Gary Black is going to be doing like a showdown with Gordon Johnson, right? So that's
Wasn't
gonna
that
be
canceled? I thought that was canceled.
I don't know.
Gary
maybe
Black, or you mean Dan Ives?
Sorry, Dan Ives. Yeah, Dan
No, that was
Ives.
canceled.
So
That was canceled,
Oh,
right?
did
I
they-
was
Farzad,
supposed
can you
to
explain
host
the
it.
situation?
Yeah, I was supposed to host it on my channel. So Dan approached me and said, "Hey, Gordon agreed to do this. It's going to be at a pizza shop. Would you be cool if we use your platform to stream it?" I'm like, "Hell yeah, let's do it." And then we started blasting it out. And then over the weekend, Gordon pulled out. And then so we
Why? You
we
know
had
why?
to cancel
because
it.
he was going to get decimated.
Tesla's
I don't
pumping.
know.
No, but
I don't have any
Gordon,
reason.
hold on.
Because Tesla's at 250.
It's like, hey,
Gordon's not afraid
my
of
understanding.
Gordon's
Yeah,
not
my
afraid of
understa-
debates, so.
Yeah, it's weird. My understanding was that he was committed. Like, my understanding is that he reached out to Dan to set up the thing. Dan proposed a pizza shop, and Gordon said yes. And then when we started blasting it out, then he said no. So I don't know if it got. I don't know. I don't want to put.
I
words in
wasn't
his
aware
mouth,
of that.
so.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
So thanks for clearing that up.
Ahmed, I want to follow up,
Yeah.
but you had a
Wait,
question.
I didn't ask my question. I
thought that was
I thought that was the question.
No,
How many questions?
No, my
do you
question was Dan Ives is set to do this event with Gordon Johnson. So my question for you was, which Tesla Bear would you most like to openly call out and debate?
So one of my favorite people on the other side, and I don't know if you guys have heard of Drew Dixon on Twitter. And he's like, I don't even want to call him a bear. He's just somebody who he is able to really, he's bringing a certain viewpoint to the conversation that I never think about in that respect. And I really enjoy talking with him on Twitter, like reading his things, and I'll poke at him, like I just poke at people because it's fun. It's fucking Twitter. That's what you do. So I poke at him from time to time, but he knows it's in good fun. We talk in DMs and stuff. So, but I really appreciate his point of view because it's a lot more grounded in how the industry used to be. And then, maybe I am not putting enough weight in humans not changing their behavior as quickly as I think they would. And so he helps ground me in that reality, plus how to how he views the valuation of the company, which helps me rerun my thesis over and over again. So he's somebody that I really enjoy talking to. I've asked him to come on the channel before. He has a full schedule, but he's somebody that I really enjoy. The problem with Tesla Bears, and I mentioned this recently when I was talking with Jan from Tesla Fix, is I feel that most Tesla Bears are just simply not rooted in reality, and they don't understand the company at all. Mm-hmm. They just don't get it. They do not get the company. And it's very tough to have a conversation with those folks because they'll say things like Tesla has no competitive advantage whatsoever. It's just a car that's a different drivetrain. They have nothing else going on about them. It's impossible for them to be a mass market vehicle. Lithium is going to run out before they're able to reach their goals. Like, they're just all these different things. And I'm like, guys, come on. Like, can we talk about like real life here and like apply? Let's go back and look at every single growth curve for any game-changing technology. And let's look at everything holistically and actually say, okay, can we agree about maybe it's overvalued? Let's not say, oh, it's a failure, or like the Gordon Johnson thing that it should be valued as an automaker. Like it's just, I don't know. It's just tough. But maybe that's part of it is that, hey, I'm a huge bull. And so anything that I would view below a neutral, I might view ridiculously. So perhaps I have a blind spot, but, when I try to engage those people and I view their arguments and I'm just like, this was a 2013 argument. This is not a 2023 argument.
I feel like most bears don't necessarily have an imagination. They look backwards in time and try to figure out the future. And that's one of the biggest problems with most bear thesis, where where there are industries where you can look backward and see something and say, okay, from a value perspective, this makes sense. Like if you're operating like, let's say, a bank, right? Banks are easier to understand looking backwards, and then you
Ring
can
the bell.
adjust things and model. But instead, if you were looking at something like a car, not just a car company, but an industry leading company that's doing more than just cars, then yeah, the valuation makes, absolute sense, because you're valuing for future growth, not for looking at backwards and saying. So I think a lot of
Right.
times but that also is kind of like suspect when it comes to the bulls too, because I see certain bulls they go hand with like some of their estimates and say, oh, this is going to be a $5 trillion company by next year. And it's like, calm your ass down. Like, there's no logic or reason to that. So you have the Uber bears on one side and you have your Uber bulls on the other side. But, and one of the bones that I do have to pick with the Tesla community, and it's not so much the Tesla community itself, it's a lot of the people that are supposed to be Tesla influencers. They have no clue what they're talking about when it comes to Tesla either. They just happen to be on the ride along with everyone else. Like whenever I hear some of the questions that are being asked about Tesla, especially during like live events, they actually have a platform to speak on. They ask some stupid questions. And I ask myself, I'm like, you're just literally asking questions just to frame yourself as someone who's like a visionary, but you have no clue about the business at all. I don't know. How do you feel about that? Because I know that there are a lot of pretenders in the Tesla community. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I to a fault, I tend to give people the benefit of the doubt, but I think it's logical to say that if a story attracts a ton of attention and could be a fruitful endeavor from a monetary perspective, there will be a certain percentage of those folks that will use the platform to take advantage of the attention. And so statistically speaking, there will be a certain percentage of people that are there just to be there. But I don't spend any time thinking about who those people might be. I tend to but I can totally sense the frustration, and I can see how that can be. Like, if somebody's listening to those people for actual financial advice or trying to make a decision about the company, that's a shame. But that's what happens when you have the internet. I think people should just keep in mind that, I would say anyone on this panel, and no one should really take 100% what we say. Test everything we say against everything else, and do not take any of us as gospel. Because in the end, I'm a huge believer that no one knows what the fuck they're talking about. We're all just trying to figure it out, and we're all together trying to figure it out. And those, I think, that are most vulnerable about that journey and are willing to talk to as many people as they can, I think those are the people that maybe should get a little bit more weight towards what they're saying, but you should never fully trust them. You should always do your own diligence and find the opposing view.
This was a frustration that Vitaly and I had when it was the first interview that Elon did with I think it was the CEO of TED Talks, or like the person that runs TED Talks.
Chris Anderson.
It was such a garbage interview, such a wasted opportunity. You have someone there who's arguably one of the greatest minds, right? And also one of the greatest entrepreneurs. And the questions that are being asked of this guy have to go to another level. He's getting asked questions that are just not worthy of his time. Even though he does so many interviews, he gets better questions from the Babylon Bee than he does from some of these supposed pundits. You know what I'm saying? And it's incredibly frustrating.
I think the problem with the Bears. Oh no, go ahead, Farzad.
No, please.
I was just saying the problem with the Bears is that I feel like they, at 40 billion market cap, didn't understand Tesla, and now it's 700 billion.
Exactly.
You're definitely not going to get Tesla. Okay, if you didn't understand it at 40, how are you going to get it at 700? So I think that's the problem. That Gordon will never understand it, and also it's his personality now. He has to make money somehow, right?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate for sure.
Well, Amit, you said you had a serious question, because I'm about to ask him something silly.
Okay.
If you don't.
So this question might take 10 minutes, and then you can end it off with your silly question. I don't know how long it'll take.
My question is just stupid.
You have publicly said on Twitter many times, in opposition to Gary Black's thesis, that Tesla will sell 20 million cars by 2030. And he says you're out of your mind for thinking that. Can you break that down? How do we get to, because I know we only sell 87 million worldwide every year. How do we get to 20 million just for Tesla by 2030?
Sure. No, I appreciate that question. I've thought about this a lot, and the way I view it is twofold. One, I don't think Tesla needs as many factories as one would think to reach the 20 million production per year, especially with the compact car in production. And two is that Tesla and Elon back to the previous point that was made earlier, is that they look 5 to 10 years out, they make a prediction, and holy shit, are they pretty good at nailing it. And so the biggest one I use is go back to 2014 and read and listen to Elon Musk and Tesla talking about reaching 500,000 units per year by the end of 2020 in 2014 without Gigafactory in Nevada even breaking ground. And people are like, you are a fucking idiot. You don't even have the batteries, you dumbass. What are you talking about? And then 2020, 499,000 cars sold, right? And then you take that guy and then you put what he said, say with SpaceX, which is a completely different company, but it's a manufacturing company. We're going to have rockets that land themselves, and it's going to blow your mind, and it's going to bring the cost of shooting stuff up into space to like a tenth in the long term with Starship and whatever else, right? You're an idiot, physically impossible, dumbest person alive. And then for the last year, they've recovered like 200 boosters or something crazy, right? I forget how many they've recovered, but they've recovered. I think the 200th booster was recovered today. So in the last couple of years. So that should say something. But from an actual numbers perspective, so you think about what Tesla has built out right now. They have Fremont, they have Shanghai, they have Berlin, they have Austin, right? Those are the 4 that are built out right now.
And what about Nevada? Is there one in Nevada?
Nevada
is like batteries, right? But I'm thinking about car production. Like the battery production side of it is kind of tied to the manufacturing process as well. But yes, they also have Nevada and they also have New York. Like everybody forgets about New York. I forget about New York all the time. That's where they do the solar manufacturing and all that stuff. So they have 6, but 4 of them are car specific. These four factories, but really think of it more as land areas. Fremont's probably capped at like 650. Shanghai, long term, will do 2 million. They're doing 1 million right now. They're expanding the facility to do 1.5, and they have enough land to get to 2. Berlin will probably get to 1 at full capacity. They're doing 500,000, and they're going to expand to 1. And then Texas is giant. I don't know. They have so much land down here. Gigafactory.
I had to, guys. I had to.
Yeah, of course. Sure. No problem at all. That's what is she? Yeah, she definitely did say that.
Farzad's like, what fucking podcast did I come on today?
No, I love it. I love it. If I was in the middle of math, I would have made a worse joke, but you have me
no, when
thinking about
Farzad
numbers
looks
right now.
up, you're about to get some knowledge drop. You notice that?
He looks
You
up,
ask him
he's
a
like, I'm about to
question,
fucking kill
You
this
ask him a
fucker
question
right
and he's
now.
like, bam.
And then Nuevo Leon in Mexico, right? That's another facility that's going live, and that's been openly slated to do 2 million units per year. So Austin and Nuevo Leon is 4 million together. Shanghai full ramp is 6. Berlin is 7, right? And then Fremont gets us kind of close to 8-ish, right? But like between 7 and 8 million. Right now, line capacity secured. All they have to do is throw up a building. All they have to do. But that's what Tesla's good at. They throw up buildings. And so with the compact car, the factories that they're going to be building are going to be, they're going to do 2 things, right? They're going to shorten the amount of space that's required to build the car, like square footage wise. And they're also going to try to pump basically twice as many units through that same square footage. So essentially it's like a 4x factor on a factory, right? So conservatively speaking, every new factory that Tesla announces after Mexico is a 2 million car per year factory, conservatively speaking, okay? And so if we're at 8-ish now, and there are 7 years left to 2030, all Tesla really has to do is announce 1 factory per year, and they get to 20 million, right? Now, there could be a situation where at the end of 2030, there are not enough battery materials or raw materials secured, or the supply chain isn't fully built out to do 20 million, and they might do 15 million. They might even do 13 million. But 2031, you're not that far away from 20 million. 2032, you're hitting 20 million, right?
So Farzad,
So
let's say you win the supply argument. Is there the demand for 20 million cars by 2030? You think the demand's no issue?
That's a great question. So here's how I think about that. So what does an electric vehicle do fundamentally speaking? What is it? So this is, how do you guys think about electric vehicles? What do they do per mile, right? They lower the cost.
Right.
They lower the cost per mile of an electric vehicle. So the Model 3 right now, a call it a $40,000 vehicle and then you add in the EV tax credit and all that stuff, basically it gets the cost per mile to be very similar to a Camry, rivaling a Toyota in certain states, right? In 7 years' time, you're going to have a compact car that's probably going to start at $25,000-ish per year. And then if you sit down and do the math, you do the math for call it a 60-year loan on the car at like 6% interest. You add in the EV tax credit in certain areas. You add in Tesla insurance.
They might not have tax credit. They might have been
sure.
I think it's going until 2030.
Yeah. Oh, really? Oh, shit. Okay. Then.
Yeah, but my point is that the cost per mile of an EV is going to be drastically lower than the average gas car. And as you have developing nations coming online in Africa and Asia and South America, and you have more and more people willing to adopt this technology over time, I'm quite confident that there will be more than enough demand for 20 million Teslas per year, because the average cost per mile of those cars are probably going to be half of what they are today. And with the car market, this is a very well-known thing. When you're going down the price, thank you, Smack. I appreciate you, brother. When you're going down the cost curve on the car market, it's an exponential growth. So for every $5,000, if ARC had a chart or something, like when you go from 35 to 25,000, you go from like 40% TAM to like 80% TAM.
80% of the market is below $32,000, 80%.
Exactly.
Something like that.
Exactly. And you just keep going down the cost curve. What else could Tesla offer in 7 years' time as the cost of raw materials go down, the battery materials go down, and then we're not even talking about the self-driving portion of it, right? If you have a self-driving thing with the car where the car's driving itself, what's stopping somebody from hailing a car that's going to be cheaper than a Toyota Corolla per mile, vastly cheaper than the Toyota Corolla per mile, and you have a private chauffeur and you get to be driven around in private? How is that not going to be the only way people get around? Why wouldn't that be the only way people get around? You pay less than a Corolla per mile and you literally get driven around in a nice car. Why wouldn't people buy that? Or use it?
I have a question. I mean, just before we sort of finish, are you only buying? Do you still buy Tesla stock? That's one. And what is your other? Is there another bet that you have that's happening that we don't know about? Like, because you seem obviously like you're all in Tesla and there's nothing else, but there's got to be something else.
And third, have you disclosed your average? Have you disclosed the position size, or that stuff you kind of keep to yourself?
No, I'd keep it to myself. Yeah,
okay.
I keep that stuff to myself.
But can you answer the questions I asked at least about if there's something
for sure.
else? Okay.
Yeah. So the last time I bought was 2021. I wish I bought earlier this year, but unfortunately I couldn't. We have a certain lifestyle set up, and my dumbass didn't set aside enough to buy more Tesla, and so that was my lesson learned. So I'm like, okay, so don't go on vacation all the time. I try to be. So that's one. So 21 was the last time I bought Tesla. And then, sorry, what was the other question? Oh, the other big bet that I have.
Do you have anything else? Is your whole portfolio 99.9% Tesla?
He wants to know how much Palantir you're holding.
How much Enphase are you
Zero.
holding? That's
Zero.
How much Bitcoin are you holding?
I'm actually, so in my stock portfolio, I'm 100% Tesla. And then I'm holding, I think somewhere around 10,000 of Bitcoin, maybe a little bit more.
So
100%
a little bit of Bitcoin.
Tesla. That's it.
100% Tesla. Yeah.
Please tell me your wife has some VOO or VTI.
No, 401k, IRA, everything's Tesla. Yeah.
Wow.
Normally,
cool, bro. That's fucking
Don't do what I do.
normally I would disagree with that whole approach, but when it comes to Tesla, I think you're buying almost like an index fund, because you're buying so many industries that come along with it that it makes sense. It's literally buying a battery company, it's buying an automobile company, it's buying an energy infrastructure place,
an AI company, right?
Yeah, but an AI company.
Uber.
Yeah, a software company. So if you think about it, you're getting a pretty balanced portfolio by investing in one company that is being very well run. So most of the time, I disagree with people who want to go all in on one stock, but with Tesla, it's not such a.
Wait, so Farzad, when it went to $100 in January, were you like panicking a little bit, or you were still just keeping your cool and you were like, you'll be fine?
I mean, I wasn't panicking. I mean, it definitely hurts to see your portfolio go down by 75%. You're like, wow, I'm such an idiot kind of thing. You definitely have moments of doubt. But then I think where I'm very fortunate is that back when I was working at Tesla, 2017, 2018, having been an investor since 2013, I mean, I've seen the insanity of holding the stock What was different this time is that it was a severe drop that happened really quickly while Elon was buying Twitter, and I had a platform where people would reach out to me, and basically I got to see how many people are really suffering from that stock drop because maybe they didn't position themselves in a way that they felt like they underestimated the risk of holding the stock basically
And margin.
Are
margin.
you selling
exactly.
a little bit though every year to fund your lifestyle, or it's nothing like that at all? You're just holding all the
The
shit.
last time I sold was 21. I sold a little bit in 21,
Okay.
and then since then we haven't really touched it. Yeah,
Wow.
I mean, I'm not one of those guys where it's like I'm gonna hold 100% of my stock forever. If my wife and I find a situation to maybe move a little bit, like a single digit percent from the position and get into something else, we'll do it. Like we do that with real estate. Like that's the other thing that I do is like I have real estate locally here.
Smart.
But from a stock perspective, it's all Tesla. But yeah.
Awesome.
So if it just just to pick up from what you said before, if you ever do get in touch with Drew Dixon,
Sorry, not financial advice. I have
of
to
course,
say
the whole
Go
thing
ahead.
is not financial advice. If you ever do get in touch with Drew Dixon and you wanted to have someone moderate a debate between the two of you guys so that you could focus on just making your points, I think all the guys here would love to host that.
I appreciate
throwing
that.
Oh, Carlos, that's you. You got to take that up. That's all.
I would love to. I'd love to like literally moderate it, ask the questions, and get the two sides of it, and do the follow-ups with 2 minutes and responses and the whole thing. Okay, so I have a silly question, and then I'm going to ask the question I think everybody wants to know. Okay, so the silly question is, does your wife call you producer husband?
Dude, I
No,
call my wife producer wife now.
I
too,
started
because-
using that. I started
of
using
that,
that
bro.
too.
Yeah,
Like what
yeah.
the fuck?
These motherfuckers
started
are my
a
shit.
What did she call you? Is it say
she-
that on your license? Like a producer?
No,
Farzad's like, she calls me daddy. No, I'm just
No, definitely not. Definitely not. No, she calls me. Yeah, she just calls me babe. I mean, she just babe. I think it's funny because with her it was like as I called her producer wife the very first time, and then after the stream I'm like, did that? Like, are you okay with that? She's like, yeah, why would I care? I'm your producer and I'm your wife.
What do you
How's
say
that
to
a bad
people on
thing?
Twitter who give you so much shit?
Oh,
for
when
saying
I-
that?
yeah, you
'Cause
got a
I don't
lot
know
of
why
shit
they
for
say
that,
that
dude.
shit, but they like get
You know what
upset
I
if you say
say?
that.
You know what I say? Shut the fuck up.
There we go.
You don't know my life.
It's because they don't have a producer wife.
Yeah, there you
It's
go.
none of your fucking business what I call
called the
my
block
own wife, and it's none of your business how she feels around the name.
Bro, it's the weirdest shit when
That's
people
it.
would say, I'm like, what? I'm
Yeah.
like, him and his wife have a beautiful relationship doing YouTube
Yeah.
together, and you're trying to fucking make an issue out of
Listen,
it?
my-
I have
my wife-
thoughts. I have.
Is she
yeah.
actually your producer though? Is this true?
Yeah, she is. Yeah.
Yeah. So is mine. Mine gets me the drinks anytime. She wakes me up for the podcast
He calls
anytime
her.
I need
Chris calls his bartender wife.
to.
Dude, I'm so lucky. I mean, dude, she's killer. I mean, she's not just great from the perspective of producing, but she's been so supportive through this whole pet project of mine that started as a hobby and now it's sort of morphed into something that's
It's a business now,
extremely
right? It's a business.
rewarding. It's a legitimate source of income, and it's something that I absolutely love doing. It doesn't feel real. Like my life doesn't feel real, and that's what I'm most grateful about is that I get to experience something that I feel like so few people get to experience, and I count my blessings every single morning. And for every second that I spend complaining, I try to punch myself in the face because I have no right to do that. Because I literally
You get
live
to
probably
create
the best life
content.
ever.
You get to create content on the internet. You get to peek through a little bit of the crazy noise that exists on YouTube, social media, etc. And you get to have an opinion, and you get people to actually. That's a really beautiful life. I think
It's insane, independently, and I'm bound to myself. I don't have to. I say whatever I like the craziest thing that I've realized doing this YouTube thing is like, why aren't more people on networks independent? Like, why does MSNBC have talking heads? Why does Fox have talking heads? Why does CNN why does anybody have talking heads? Just go independent. Like, what are you waiting for? You just need a camera and a good microphone.
You saw the success of Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson. You'll see. I mean, I think
Exactly.
Don Lemon should do the same thing. All these people.
These guys would
should
kill
do
it.
Even like
Yeah.
Rachel Maddow, as much as I might not
All
agree
of
with
them.
everything she says, it'd be great if she had
All of
her
them.
own platform.
Yeah. All of
So
them.
now I want to ask you the question that I think this is like the question that everybody.
Wait, before Carlos, before you go there, I just want to say one thing. I think the reason why some of them don't do it is because they actually aren't not of substance. They literally just talking heads. They follow a script,
Yeah.
and that's all they're really there for.
They got mics
There's
in their
very
ears, radios in the ears.
There's
true,
very few
true.
people that can actually craft and articulate a viewpoint and make everyone say, yeah, you know what, I didn't think of it that way. Other people are just like good at reading off of a teleprompter. So
And
I
win
think
the click. YouTube, you got to win
Yeah.
the click. If CNN
Yeah.
broadcasts you,
Yeah.
you're not and winning the click is fucking hard. Farzad, that's hard.
I watch
Yeah.
Farzad, I watch your videos, and I think we did an interview last time. I said, you know what, you bring a different level of perspective into this that makes people want to be engaged with it, right? It's not just, hey, Tesla's doing this today and Tesla's doing that tomorrow. No, you're actually introspectively looking at some of the things that they're doing, you know, giving your opinions on it. And a lot of times I don't see that with other people. So I think whatever following that you have cultivated, and especially thanks to your wife helping you produce it, I think it's something that's to behold. And actually, I think this is only a beginning. I think you're going to go much further in the future with it, man. And hopefully you'll come back on and join us, because we want to go further with what we're doing too.
My
Well,
goodness.
also,
I mean,
you're in a unique position where you're grandfathered into the ground level of this Twitter thing, right? So you already have your subscriber base. The people that are in at this level are going to be like, you know, the Marcus Brownlees of, you know, that's where that's going.
Yeah,
I think if
good
it
point.
becomes that platform, you're just going to scoop up all the people. And in a few years, we might not even be able to get to you. We'll have to talk to your assistant.
If anyone hasn't
try to
subscribed
get a
to Farzad,
fucking message to Farzad. Jesus.
if anyone hasn't
what's the
subscribed to
producer's wife's
Farzad,
email?
please-
Yeah, right. Put it up on the.
my God, you guys are too nice, man. No, seriously. I mean, it's extremely flattering. It makes me feel like so. I'm just honored and really. Just thank you guys. I mean, you guys kill it. I've been watching. You know, I sometimes hop into your stream late. You know, I'm like just kind of hanging out and kind of watching what you guys do. But I really appreciate your voices. You guys are. I feel like you guys are unbiased, very logical people that are talking about the subjects openly. With rawness, and you're not afraid to talk about stuff, right? As it pertains to different things. So I really appreciate that from you guys. And yeah, it's just an absolute joy being part of the conversation. Like, again, like to me feel surreal because I'm just hanging out with a bunch of bros talking about stuff, but then there's people watching.
586 people watching. It's like,
dude, and then I'll be at freaking Planet Fitness working out because I'm too lazy to go to a bigger gym. So we go to Planet Fitness, and then like I've had 3 random people be like, "Are you Farzad?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Dude, I love your videos." I'm like, "What the fuck is this, bro?" Like I'm working out. Like what? It's like it's surreal. It's weird, but I'm so grateful for it. And
You got someone asking for your autograph yet?
Okay, so
Like, can you sign my Tesla key?
when we go to like you know how Tesla has events in Austin, and then they'll do like a pre-thing at like a bar and stuff. Like I like to go to those to meet people, but like I'm constantly taking selfies and signing stuff. It's surreal. It's very strange. It's very strange, but again, it's flattering. It's like it's strange.
That's
all
cool.
right,
Very weird
Carlos,
stuff.
your big question.
All right, I want to
Last
ask
one.
you this is the question that I think everybody wants to know. Okay,
I feel a lot of pressure right now.
Someone like you. Okay,
Is this serious
So-
or is this a joke?
No, this is a serious question.
Okay.
I want to know this fucking question. Everybody else can log out. I want to answer this question. Okay, I'm going to throw some things at you, and I want you to put them in order from now, say till 2030, and then tell us what Tesla's market cap would be as these things happen. So in the following, in random order. Okay, I'm just going to give them to you, and then you place them in the order: Cybertruck, FSD, Roadster, $25,000 vehicle, first robo-taxi fare, energy, the van.
Bro, I gotta write this down.
He's
What
not
are you
gonna
doing?
remember all these.
Hold on.
Basically
Okay.
all of the next verticals for Tesla. Can you
Yeah,
put them in some sort of an order? Say, okay, 2024, this, 2025, this, 2026, this,
Okay.
all the way to 2030, and give us just your take on what that does to the market cap as
Yeah.
Tesla introduces these S curves on top of S curves.
Yeah. So very good question. So I'll start with the nearest stuff, and if I miss one, just let me know, and then I'll try to fill in the gaps. So the nearest one is Cybertruck. That's going to be hopefully in the next 3 months or so. I think that one will have, if it does do anything to the market cap, I think it's just going to be just a lot of FOMO type stuff because I think it's going to be very groundbreaking. I've seen it in person. Have you guys seen it in person?
Oh yeah,
I've
I have
seen
the
Cybertruck. You have?
Peterson Museum is out here, so it's
Dude.
not the official production. It was the one that's 5% bigger, but this thing is people have no idea what this thing's.
They have no idea. It's extremely difficult to paint the picture as to how just different this thing looks, especially outside in the sun. It just looks like a murder weapon. It looks absolutely wild. and I freaking love it. So I think that's going to generate an incredible amount of buzz. It's going to keep Tesla in the headlines in a very positive manner. Every rap video is going to have the Cybertruck in it. You know, everybody who's got his hands or her hands on it, they're going to be making videos and content about it. It's going to just permeate the internet, and that's going to be partnered with the fact that Tesla is going to continue expanding its partnerships with other automakers with the NACS standard. So there's going to be, I think, a lot of positive news. And short of the Fed or the economy tanking, I think that could bode well for Tesla. But I don't really view that as a fundamental change in the business. I just think it's a continuation of the auto business, right? En route to 20 million per year by 2030. So that's how I view that. So if there's any bump, great. If not, whatever. It'll keep going through 2030. So then energy, the way I view that is that it's a slow burn. It's a slow burn, but I think that business probably adds, again, not financial advice, back of the napkin math, probably somewhere between $2 to $3 trillion in market cap by 2030, if I were to guess. That business alone, as it continues to ramp. And the way I think about that, it's about half the size of auto. I view auto somewhere around, say, 4 to 6 trillion. At 20 million per year, without substantial FSD revenue at like a 30-40 PE. I got to sit down and actually like show you guys the math, which I can do in one of these videos. But that's how so the auto business, 4 to 6 billion, energy 2 to 3 billion, or
Trillion.
2 to 4 billion. Trillion. Yeah, thank God. And then full self-driving, I view that as a doubling of the market cap. I think the
year?
potential.
So now we're in 2023. Cybertruck gets released. There's a bump to the market cap. Now, what happens in 2024? What's the milestones in 2024?
That's hard. That's hard for me to answer because it's like I don't know how the market's going to react, right? Like if the market viewed the story as I did, then the second the first robotaxi car is out there generating revenue, which I believe is as early as next year, then I would start baking in the valuation because I don't see anyone else even remotely close to what Tesla has. Like even take Cruise and Waymo as an example. They might be operating in San Fran and other places in very limited capacity, but for them to scale up that business, that means creating these cars that require $250,000 of equipment in geofenced areas where anything that changes around the road fucks up your system. Whereas Tesla's vision system is adaptable anywhere. So, and they have the manufacturing capacity by 2030 to potentially do 20 million per year. So they're just flooding the market with robotaxis. No one else can do that. So if next year they have their first fair, then I would say, I don't know, start baking in, 10 to 20% of 5 trillion in that first year and start going up as the business grows. I don't know how to value that, but long term. So the way I value my stocks is I try to go like 10 years out ish. And I do the math to see what the business could be then. And then I'm like, okay, that's the potential. Take, 20 to 30% off the top, and that's my valuation. That's like back of the napkin. And then I sit down and I start to see, okay, can I actually model this in? Can I try to model this in to see if this number is realistic? And that's how I constantly nip and tuck the numbers. And then the Tesla bot is another double on already double business. And so if the Tesla bot comes
so we're
to
at
fruition,
16 trillion. Is this right? Am I counting this correct?
20 to 30 trillion.
But now, so we're,
I mean,
so
my plan is to retire at around 4 trillion. So I should wait a little bit longer.
Not financial advice.
And listen, you've only done like 3 things on the list. So just to paraphrase, 2023 Cybertruck gets released, small bump. 2024, you're thinking there's a good chance we're going to see the first robotaxi fares, and the market may or may not start pricing in some of this multiple. So now 2025, are we thinking that's bot? Are we thinking that's the van? Are we thinking that's the 25K vehicle? The
25K vehicle for sure. Yeah, for sure. Again, again, for me, it's very hard to say market cap by this year because I base everything off of 2030 to 2035. Yeah. And so I do my math on 20 million cars per year, an energy business that's about half to 3/4 of the size of the auto business, an FSD business that's going to equal the revenue and profitability from the auto business most likely through the service, and then the bot that completely breaks the labor equation. And that one's like almost impossible to sit down and actually figure out how much it's valued. But like FSD, auto, and energy by themselves at full ramp by say 2030 or 2035, those 3 businesses, I think, so FSD, auto, and energy are easily $10 trillion. Easily. easily.
Let me ask you then
Probably
from that. You
significantly
have
more.
obviously very bullish expectations. When do you
You think?
sell that next first share? No, but when do you, what, you still have an exit strategy, right?
No, I
There's
don't
no
have an
exit
exit
strategy.
strategy.
No, he's
No.
fucking holding. He's holding.
No, hold
the
on.
fucking
It,
stock.
Well, as
hits
long-
5 trillion, you sell 10%, nothing
No.
like that.
Well, I think
No,
as long as
no.
you have income, you would maybe. I can't imagine. I would say that you would borrow against it, but you're not going to look. It's like owning a house,
No.
right? It's like you wouldn't sell a
Yeah,
house.
literally the way I work is like I like to keep a really nice chunk of Tesla stock, and if it goes up a lot, and then I'm like, oh, that's a bigger number than I expected by this time. My wife and I will sit down. Is there a place to put this somewhere else that we think is going to make us happier? And if the decision is yes, then we make the move, and that's it. And we move on. That's it. Very simple.
Yeah, I think one of the curious things is the number may sound really big, like $10 trillion. Oh my
Sounds
god,
ridiculous.
But
even me.
But if you
Yeah,
asked
sounds insane.
anyone in 2010, Apple's market cap was going to be 3 trillion, everyone would have done the same thing. They would have said, no, that's impossible. $1 trillion company, the thought of $1 trillion company was impossible. So I think by 2030, you're going to see the first 5 trillion, $10 trillion companies out there. So it's just a matter of, the money printers are always working. They're always going to do their thing. Inflation is going to do their thing, and the law of big numbers comes to fruition. That's one of the reasons why real estate tends to outperform so much with a lot of businesses, because essentially the land, when you buy something, it's at a fixed cost, but then what happens is the value of it's going to keep going higher and higher and higher. So it's very similar to what I see happening with Tesla, especially if they're able to execute on all their businesses, which it seems like they're doing. So yeah, I don't see $10 trillion completely out of the realm as a possibility, especially because they have so many verticals that they're touching upon. Like, I wouldn't call myself a Tesla like bull, but nor would I say I'm a Tesla bear. I was honestly about 2 years ago a lot more skeptical of Tesla, but when I really did a lot more in-depth research, I looked at like the mega packs, I looked at the charging stations, I looked at the business model, and the business model means that they're going to be gaining infinite operating leverage over time, because as you know, as you scale up, costs come down, and you're able to charge pretty much a fixed amount or a little bit higher, but the cost that you're inputting in goes down significantly. And I just think that there's so many high margin businesses that eventually Tesla is going to have. Like the best example that I could give is probably the charging stations, right? You have electricity, you can put a mega pack there, electricity comes in, charge it at 1-2 cents. When you have a supercharger utilizing it, you're charging 26 cents. Look at the margin that you're getting from that. Right?
Yep.
Imagine 100,000 of these supercharging stations all around the world. It may seem impossible right now, but guess what? If you completely transition to an EV economy, which isn't unheard of by 2030, and Tesla's like a significant portion of the charging stations, that business alone could be $2 billion to $3 trillion. And it's all high margin business, because you're not really putting in any more costs. All it is just being an electricity provider.
And let me add layer something on top of that, right? And so how does that valuation come to fruition? It's the fact that we're starting to see this trend now, is that everyone is starting to recognize that Tesla's plug is superior and that their network is superior, at least in the United States. So at least here in North America, Tesla will make money from every EV sold in the United States, Canada, and Mexico. Just let that sink in for a hot second.
Exxon.
Tesla has a financial incentive for every automaker to make an electric car. Okay? So they're no longer competitors. They are adding to Tesla's cash flow. And what's Tesla? In my opinion, they are a collection of problem solvers who will do their absolute best to create killer shit with the minimum amount of money required. And they will do things in manufacturing and software that people will find extremely useful, which means that those products will be around for a really long time. So that equation to me seems like when I think about my investment, a low risk, high reward scenario, especially where we are right now in EV adoption. But like that's one of those layers. And then what happens when they start licensing out full self-driving? What happens when they start renting out bots and letting people buy their bots to do labor around the world? I don't know. I'll shut up because it's getting weird.
I think we should bring up that Amit has sold all his Tesla shares.
Did you?
I had 20 shares, Farzad. So yeah.
Okay.
We had a whole.
I don't
thing.
think he believes you, Farzad. Maybe you want to talk.
No,
to
I
him.
do. It's just
It's
again
okay.
my thing was there was a short-term play that I wanted to get into that has yielded better results for me than Tesla going
Yeah.
4 or 5x. So yeah, that's why I sold 20 shares.
Yeah. That's okay. We're
Well,
still friends.
this is the long play.
We're still friends. He said.
I think, to be honest, Farzad
You got to
is
buy back
talking
in though,
about-
okay? And I need
You got to buy back in now.
Yeah, need to see the
Yeah.
receipts.
No, you have a good year. Farzad is talking about the long term. He's not talking about this year, I think.
No, yeah,
Oh, for sure.
and he's right about the long term. Anyway, you would have to be an idiot to not even think there is a 1 or 2% possibility of all these things happening, and most likely it's 80-90% possibility. And the GM Ford stuff is really, I think we didn't even get to talk about that, but that consolidation, which you kind of just touched on, basically them becoming an AWS of EVs, it's real, it's happening, it's right now, and it's exciting to see it happen. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's momentum that I believe. If there's one thing I'm looking for in the short term is I think this summer every automaker would have announced that they're moving their plug to NACS in North America. I expect every automaker to do that because now if you're a Volkswagen and you're selling in the US, you're not just competing against Tesla as an EV, you're also competing against Ford and GM. And the second most important thing that people look for in an EV, second only to price. And so if they're already making a decision to buy your product, but you're not offering them the same charging experience as a Ford, a GM, or a Tesla, how the fuck are you going to sell your car?
That's right.
It's not going to happen.
That's right. That is right.
Well, it feels like we're getting towards the end. I just want to say it was a personal bucket list, like a YouTube career bucket list thing to have a conversation with you in real time.
Oh my God.
Get some of
Dude.
these questions answered and just, even talk about like metal and stuff. I'm a big fan and I really appreciate you coming on and just dropping truth bombs, man. I'm gonna go buy some more Tesla stock tomorrow, man. Damn, I don't have enough shares.
And here I thought it was
you, man. That's very
expensive.
kind.
Yeah, you're thinking it's expensive. It's like 12 days in a row. I gotta buy some more shares, man.
Listen, I mean, I just have really high conviction, but it doesn't mean I'm right. So don't, I would say for those that are watching me, be very emotional or like be very passionate about my investment thesis. Don't let my passion cloud your judgment. Do your own research. Okay, like don't take what I say as gospel. Just go in there and do the research. Yeah, for sure. But I appreciate you, man. That's very kind. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
Farzad is on Twitter. I'm putting his link in the chat for anyone who wants to check him out. Thank you for joining. His YouTube is also in the description as well.
Yep.
And yeah, thank you for giving us your time, Farzad. It means the world. See you next time.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you so
care,
much.
guys.
Have a
Bye,
good night,
everybody.
everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.